Yo, welcome back to the Two Sinners podcast, the most professional podcast on the internet, because me, Doc Jericho, and my buddy Jake James here profess faith in Jesus Christ.
Amen to that.
So you ready to get rowdy today, Jake? Let's get rowdy.
Yeah, let's get rowdy here. We're gonna get right into some a little bit of a heated thing here. I guess a little bit. So recently, and we've had a few conversations about this ourselves, but there was this recent episode on The View ladies are out there, um, just kind of spewing that we don't need any more babies. We have enough people on the earth and doing things, maybe in a traditional sense of the family and everything is a little bit not what they are feeling. And obviously, and this is a counter argument because there was a person saying we need to have more children, and obviously the population is on a decline, which they failed to really address, and they denied it actually flat out. Um, they said there's more. They said there's plenty of people on the earth. We don't need to have women having more children.
Birth rates in like post-industrial countries like America and Japan and South Korea actually has the lowest birth rate of anybody. They're like running to extinction as a group of folks as fast as you can. South Korea is. Be very, very cautious. You'll see like the fingerprints of evil on anybody who talks about overpopulation, the population bomb, this kind of thing. It's like there's actually like way more room in the earth. Like there's resources, there's good stuff. Anytime you see people that are hungry and don't have resources, it usually is directly tied to their government situation.
Exactly.
And trying to redistribute and deciding who they're not going to share with, and
Right.
and all this good stuff. Be very, very cautious of those kind of folks. Yeah, population is that like birth rate is way below replacement. Whether it's America, South Korea, Japan. If you look at whatever Japan's doing, like 10 years ago, it's what America starts doing in the present. And that's like a good barometer to see just societal movements and shifts going.
And I think there's something to be said too. Okay, and because there's another part of that argument where we're talking about, okay, so they took exception specifically by saying, okay, so bringing more children into the world, number one, they just think the world sucks right now or has sucked and sucks. So don't bring more kids into the world is probably obviously part of their opinion. But bringing more kids into the world, and it costs so much money, and that having more children is going to make more poverty because for some reason we already have trouble taking care of these kids that we've got already, that was part of the argument. And I'm going to go ahead and say that's a load of crap too. That's just a big wad of shit. And what my buddy Doc here was saying is there's plenty of resources. There's plenty of in the earth, and God clearly said be fruitful and multiply.
It wasn't be fruitful
And
a little bit and multiply a little. It was like,
go out and subdue the earth. Like go out and um, it's definitely and go
yeah,
ahead.
the harvest is plenty, but the workers are few. Like we can use more folks. So I mean, obviously there are reasons why parenthood is like on trial right now. Like women view pregnancy as an issue, and one of the big reasons why is the collapse of the coherent nuclear family system. And
Exactly.
there's ways where this starts, and funnily enough, it's like the onus is on men, and that's what we can do. So we can again like call men out in the coolest possible way because we're going to bring in a lot of hope and like use common sense to build this out. So you have to make a choice. Like one of the very greatest choice you can make in life is to accept Jesus as Lord and take like the best free gift that's ever been offered. The next important choice that has bearing on what happens in your life is who you choose to date, marry, and mate with, hopefully in that order. So this is how this happens. Um, I really believe that men make concessions about who they are going to choose as their wife because maybe they've already gotten into a lustful, idolatrous fornication situation. Let's just drive this bus right home.
This is true.
There, Jake. So my proposed solution is that we scale back on, as men, um, prioritizing the pleasure of sex as the main driving factor of how we choose who to date and who to get engaged with. Because there's this fear. It's like, well, I'm getting laid and it feels good, and that's a fun thing. And then I don't want to lose that, and then maybe you get into like a bind. And so, this is me playing the movie forward. I'm sure a lot of guys have experienced this, and the only solution to not getting into that concession loop to where, maybe there's a girl and it seems great at first, but then you realize that it's not God's will and it's not a functional match. So you break up, and breakups are sad and horrible and tragic. The only thing that can make a breakup even worse is if you're already doing sexual things with that partner of yours. It's not test driving the car does not have good long-term success. The stats are in. It's a bad strategy. We as men need to be pursuing good strategies that work, even if they're not the funnest, greatest strategy. And maintaining like a celibate type situation is how you keep your future marriage prospects good. And then you're doing that assessment, you're hanging out, you're figuring out, especially you're talking to God about this person and seeing if that's really the person for you. And isn't that like such a way better metric to decide on who your partner is? What do you think, Jay?
It's also because, there's dudes out there right now, and you've got like the baddie, right? You've got a girl who, you're like, oh, she's a bad bitch. And we throw that out there a lot lately in this culture that we have. We're like, I want a bad bitch. All this stuff. Now, it's one thing to want, the type of woman that you see as desirable and everything, and we're not going to be naive here to the fact that there are mistakes that happen that we're all going to make. We're all sinners. We all fall short of the glory of God, and we're not going to sit here and just say that everything you should just be condemned if you've already maybe you've fallen short there and you've had some relationship that you've already kind of crossed the line there, or if you're currently out there and you're just messing with the baddies. And but here is what we need to get into is the material that we're talking about when we say wife material. We talk about that, and I just brought up the baddies or the whatever, however you want to term that, and it's like, okay, well, are you really surprised? When you get to that point where if you're sitting here and you're having the what we would say is, it's like the sirens are coming. The sirens are coming.
This should be an alarm.
This should be an alarm.
This should be an alarm to you gentlemen. Look at that. There they go. There's your long-term future.
There's your
it's
future.
On fire.
Your future is literally on fire, and they are coming right now to come try to put out the fire. Or maybe that's what's happening.
It's okay. Doc Jericho and Jake James have solutions, and it's not necessarily the easiest thing to hear.
And this
is the breakdown. This is why everybody's so horny. Okay, let's talk about this. Is that edict to be fruitful and multiply is built not into you, but into the rest of nature too. Nature is fecundating. It has that component, and you're no exception in your little fleshy body that's now full of fallen nature and sin. So what happens is that the thing that God said to do gets weaponized by the forces of evil.
This is right.
And then all the lustfulness gets supported by the culture. And it's like there's a reason why you're this way. It's because chastity is not popular.
It's not.
Like being chaste, doing good family systems is not popular. And these girls can even be offended when the men come in and they realize that kind of lustful feminine power can't be used as a control mechanism. There, I said it.
Because there is that, and that is something about, and I'm just going to call it straight out because we're talking about that and with feminism, and there is that kind of, again, being having discernment. I talk about that a lot, and being able to kind of see. Now, not everybody, you're young out there, you might be very young and you might be very naive, but you can develop this discernment, and you start with the Bible. Obviously, God's way is the way for a reason, and we talk a lot about that, the way, the truth, the life. These are obviously guardrails that are going to keep you in a good position for success for your life and just for living in God's will for you. Which I know that's obviously that's hard for people to accept too. But that said, when we're talking about, and again, I was saying earlier, the baddies, and right now the fire truck just went by to your house because your baddie is burning it down right now.
She's fire burning on the dance floor.
She is literally
Shorty's
burning
fire burning on the dance floor.
Right? She's literally burning your home down to the ground. And you need to recognize right now. See, when we talk about she's for the streets, right? If you are in that relationship where it's on lust, and that's the only thing that you built it on, that's it. It started with lust, and that's all that it is. There's nothing else. You are not, the success is not there. The foundation is not there, because not everything is sex and pleasure from that alone. Is it important? Yeah, you want to have a good, obviously the partner that you're with, but those things, if you're with that right partner, and especially the one that God wants you to be with, I believe that whoever that person is, that when you're with that'll be the best sex. That will be the best sex that you will have, because of how much love is there, and in the sense of this is about the family. And again, right now the baddie is out there. She's burning your house down. She's getting on her OnlyFans, and she's slutting it up right now. And it's not what you want. You think you want that. You think that, yeah. Sometimes you're like, oh man, she's she's fire. This
This is why women constantly complain that there are no good men out there. Because I'm going to go ahead and say that mastering your sexuality as a man, which is something that you can only do with God's help, by the way. So if you're wondering how to start this process of getting out of pornography, because that's a huge problem, the big clue is that it's free, and we can talk about the number one thing that got me out of a struggle with pornography, because pretty much everybody who's had internet access got into that as an issue, is that there's just mass exploitation among the people that are actually being filmed. And it's a fact of the industry. And you can look into that with people who have done documentaries or modern instances like, folks like Bonnie Blue and this guy. You can tell that it's going the wrong way.
It's going the wrong way.
And so that's how you master your sexuality, and you put it under God's control for your life. And that's something that maybe is an instance of prayer, but it's also a matter of common sense, because the bottom line is, gentlemen, that it's not real. But you get all that stuff in your head. It gives you warped ideas about how sex is the most important thing, when actually God's will and family, which is part of God's will, is the most important thing. You can get yourself realigned through true north by aligning yourself with God's will, and then you will become good men, and then there won't be a good men shortage, because it's the number one thing, because women can smell this on you. When you are a master of your sexual desires, and she can't just get anything that she wants from you by offering sex, it puts you in the position in the hierarchy of God, man, women, children, animals. And you can tell that what happened in the Genesis 3 event was a turning of that hierarchy directly on its head, where an animal, which was the serpent, of course that's a complex metaphor, then woman told man to eat the thing, and then man blamed God for the whole thing and put God on the bottom. And that's the reversal that we're still dealing with right now, and that's the direct breakdown of how
The
lust,
fallen world.
lustful sexuality is like the currency of the kingdom of darkness. It's not the only currency, but it's something to watch out. Like if sex and lustfulness is running you, then that's a thing, and that's a thing you have to watch out for, and you're getting used as a puppet. But to bring it right around to the loop, because we're in a bit of a digression, that's why that's why the birth rate is plummeting in post-industrial countries, because it's the easiest in post-industrial countries to not follow God's will, because we have so many modern conveniences, and the groceries just show up at the store and you can keep sinning.
Isn't
and,
that so cool?
and
The
keep
groceries just show up at the store. It's like you don't even think about it. It just shows up.
It's
at
a
the store.
miracle
So,
of modern
go
infrastructure
ahead.
that's also very fragile.
Very,
So
very.
so yeah, that's the whole build out, gentlemen. If you it's one of those things where you learned where babies come from a while back, and just because it's something that it feels good for a reason. It feels good because it's God's will, but you can use that to make sure that your evaluation process, that that you, that family is happening because you're evaluating for family, and it's the long term happiest, most fulfilling thing that you can do with your sex
Right,
life,
right.
because you're bringing your sex life into alignment with God's will. I guarantee it's worth it. If enough of you guys try it, it's going to solve the population collapse problem.
And that goes to the next part of this because we were talking about the type of woman that you choose, and when we're talking about choosing a partner, choosing a mate, choosing that, and I have never been married, so I can't sit here and speak to the fact that I've given those kinds of vows. But when I do, if I do, that to me is sacred, and I'm going to do every single thing I can to honor those vows all the way to death do we part. I believe in that. That's where I stand on that, and when that time comes, that's what I'm going to do. And ultimately, that's also, I think, commitment. That's a commitment, right? That's a very large commitment, and everybody wants to have their cake and eat it too.
Say we can't get these men to commit. It's like, well, it's because you've probably proven yourself as somebody who's incapable of running submission properly.
Right?
Because it really there's a hierarchy in everything, and people are like doing their best to like put dynamite at the foundation of the patriarchy right now. It's like that's really what they want to do
This
more
is true.
more than anything. But the the family hierarchy system is just really good at promoting well-being for people. It's like the very very happiest women, which is a gigantic lie of feminism, and you can backtrace feminism back to occult roots during the time between about 1830 and 1910. World War One is really what threw the new thought movement for a loop, but this is a coherent effort to destroy society with
Because you
lies.
can argue that
You
started in
can
the
you
20s there, and it
Yeah,
started building in that time. Go
yeah,
ahead. Go ahead.
like you can look into it. It's
Yeah.
it's a real material problem with the incursion of thinkers that had occult type ambitions and their connection to feminism. It's it's a whole deal. Like that's where it started, and the problem is when people believe lies, they get bad results. You could probably put that on a coffee mug.
Oh, you
You could probably
can.
take a picture of me right now and put it on the coffee mug.
Dude, it's so true. When you believe lies, when you are deceived, and yeah, I mean, oh my.
I'll drink to that, Jake.
Yeah, that's definitely going to be something that's going to hurt you. And when you're drinking the lies of the enemy and you're sitting there taking it out on the, oh, okay, we're talking about things that are, again, there's somebody out there. Obviously, there's nefarious purposes that comes from the enemy. You are, uh, you're taking these things. Okay, lust. God obviously intended for sex between the husband and the wife. The and that there's a reason there obviously for this, and that is for in the marriage with that commitment. Bad things are going to come naturally from the deception that it's okay to just freely do this outside of those parameters. There are reasons for those parameters. There's reasons. Now, we can sit here and obviously anybody, there's going to be a lot of people argue with this. Oh, it feels great and just do it. Just it doesn't matter and don't listen to us. We're just a couple of babbling
It's just that
idiots,
our
as
opinions are purely in line with common sense. Like I said before, everybody knows where babies come from. It's a thing.
I-
It's like we learned where babies come from probably somewhere between the age of 6 or 7
Right.
and maybe 10 if you were kind of a fragile child and your parents thought that you weren't ready for a discussion about body fluids. And then, I think that sex ed kicked in school for me in about 5th grade. So you'll get it from the regular modern education system. Probably by about then is the way that's going. But you, when you put your actions in line with God's will, you'll also find that they beautifully and elegantly match nature and common sense.
Yeah, and this is true, and I guess those the what we were referring to, and what I was saying earlier, the lies from the enemy to destroy those beautiful things. It's just like anything. We can say there's obviously good and bad in everything, and from sex there comes there's the pleasure. There's obviously that's you feel good, you feel um, there's a lot that comes from just that the endorphins, everything that comes from that, the feel good. There's also these other things. There's also children. Children happen from sex. That's what it's also for. It's to procreate. It's to create children.
It also causes people to bond, and also having children
Soul ties, by the way.
will slightly lower the T levels in some men to calm their beastly nature, such that they can be nurturing in commensuration with being fathers. It's like sex and children creates within you the hormonal makeup to be a wise, level-headed king. It's like in there and it's nuts. It's the system is so beautiful and so elegant that going against it is peak silliness.
Don't out there. I was gonna say because there's the lies of that can't make that having that commitment, having that kind of relationship. It's also I forgot I was gonna say this earlier. The soul ties,
Oh yeah.
the soul ties, and don't be fooled. God is in this as well. There's three people actually. When this marriage happens, it's the man, the woman, and then God enters as well. A house that's built on solid foundation, the house that's built on rock stands. The house that's built on sand is going to wash away. This is facts. This is just we can measure this. We can see it. And so you look at the relationships just like this. But those soul ties and the things that come with the actions, and if you're just simply doing lustful things, now it happens. I'm not we're not naive here. This is the Two Sinners podcast. People
we're
are out
not-
there.
We're not trying to make anybody feel like the things that they've done in the past will cause them to not be redeemed. Like there are
I'll drink to that.
repentance and redemption solutions. Give me one of these, Jake.
Yeah.
There are repentance and redemption solutions to all the things that you've ever done. You can literally lay that at the foot of the cross. But moving forward, that's what it means for your mind to be renewed. You hear good information that is real and in line with God's will, and which is basically common sense. It's like the only common sense that is agreeable, and you get this in you, and it gets in your heart, and it causes you to do things that don't create suffering for yourself and the people around you. It's amazing.
It's important because you think about it, and again, this is something else that we talk about here a lot, which is choices. choices are important, and when you make the right choices, you're going to get the best results. And it's hard sometimes. I know out there, we all fall short of the glory of God. Like we said, we're sinners, every single one of us, and we are not beyond redemption. And every single one of us, we can come lay that at the foot of the cross, and we are forgiven, and that's very important. And we need to remember, though, that while that is true, we also have to remember that there's a responsibility that comes with our freedom to make these choices, and these choices when we were and consequences of your actions. And so you think about a child, and we're talking about bringing children into the world. And right now, the number one problem in the world, I'm going to go ahead and say, it's not just America, it's the world. Maybe other parts of the world, it might be worse than others, but I'm saying for certain it's just the world. But family, families, you need the nuclear family. There's a reason why that this works. And I hear a lot of single parents out there that want to argue, oh, I'm just fine with my single family. And you might be, and you really might be doing a great job as a single parent, and you're doing the best you can. And that is definitely, like, I'm not putting that down for anybody who is a single parent out there. But what I am saying is that it's undeniable that there's things that you're going to miss that with what you'll have for the children as having that family unit intact.
What I'm really
Um,
trying to point out is that this stuff doesn't happen, it doesn't arise out of nowhere. There's a foundation that you're building in your relationships, and then it's building that foundation promotes a relationship that is coherent, and that's what like builds nuclear family. If you start off wrong, and like maybe we've got listeners, they're probably in one of these situations. Maybe you're living with a girlfriend or whatever right now. It's like you got to take a step back if you guys have been doing like sexual lustful fornication type stuff. Maybe seriously consider putting it on a back burner. It's something to try. There's no rules here. We're not playing for a grade, but we are. But we're not playing for. We're not going to tell you what to do, but we can offer a suggestion that happens to be in line with God's will and biblical principles. And then you try it, and you're like, oh my goodness, it's like we stop fighting, or we realize that without sex, our relationship is like dissolves to nothing, and that we don't even really like each other. And then you have a golden opportunity to get yourselves on the right path. And what I'm saying is that the population collapse problem, which is the raison d'etre, that's the thing that we're going for. Um, the way that we do relationships as a society, and the way that society supports the formation of relationships, and your online dating apps for Tinder and this kind of stuff. It used to be like the grandmas. Like the grandmas would pair up the teenagers,
right?
and people would make marriage decisions based on they would observe these people and their temperaments, and there was an oversight structure, and this oversight structure is still present in weird empty rituals around the marriage process, like when as a man, that if you're really going to do it, you have to go to this lady's father, provided that she has one that is present and in her life because of the previous generational trauma that's occurred. But provided that this lady has a father, you go and you ask for this woman from him for you. And this whole thing we can tie into, patriarchy almost seems like a dirty word, but it's just the fact that it's true of how
Men are the
arranged.
leaders. Men are the leaders, and it starts and it ends with the man.
What I'm saying here is that there's a relationship between that father and his daughter,
Oh, and that too.
provided that that relationship hasn't already been broken. If you examine how that lady treats her father, it might be a little bit of an indication of how she's going to treat you when you're in charge, and maybe she starts to see you that way. And it's like, wouldn't you like, supposing you were a lady, which is a wild hypothetical, but I'm I like to try to take my brain and put it behind other people's eyeballs so I can see situations from different angles. It really helps you have that's what true empathy,
Right,
not
right, right,
suicidal empathy,
right.
not toxic empathy, but true empathy is trying to feel with. Um, well, which is actually what sympathy means. But anyway, wouldn't you like to know that you have a man who's going to be your husband and your lover who has pledged to your dad that he acknowledges that you are now his responsibility? And just like the love that fathers have for their daughters, you as the husband are going to take that and take on that mantle, which is a responsibility because there's like starvation and sickness and poverty and all the kinds of stuff that you have to be the bulwark against if you are the husband. And then later on, you have daughters, and you see this whole process turn over, and it makes for a clean system that actually makes sense. And I don't know if people really think about it this way, but it's in line with common sense. It's like what happens in real life. And then, imagine that you didn't have that talk with this daughter's father, or this father didn't have it together enough to make sure to say, under no circumstances am I going to put my daughter under the authority, because after all, I don't believe in that, maybe, of this guy who's some hot shot that you know is having trouble keeping work, or is like not ready for that role. Or maybe he's making the observation, it's like my daughter is not ready to be led, and you'll get that clue from the fathers too. It's like when you actually have, like, when you're a good man and you have a talk with dad, that's the thing that can come up. He's like, "Are you sure?
Are you sure?
Are you really sure she doesn't mind? She gets mean and she yells if you don't give her a deal." It's like you can learn so much from the gal, from watching their mom and dad. Like if you put yourself in the position where you're like a candidate for a husband, you get like all this intel, and you can use it to make a coherent decision about, like, because this is how you keep marriage till death do us part, and you don't have two divorces like Doc Jericho
And you
did.
know what? And by the way, just to throw this in there right now, because obviously we both have life experience that we can speak to. Yeah, we're younger, but we have some experience here in life that definitely we can speak to these things. Maybe for Doc, he's been married a couple times. I've never been married, but I have a son. I was not married to his mother, and so say what you want there. Obviously, about having the child out of wedlock, that is a thing there.
Yeah, and then
Um,
consequences play out. That's why we're trying to assert that we're in a unique position to be like, hey, if you, it's like I feel okay when I request that you take my assertions into consideration. I'm okay with that if I'm basing my assertions on the fact that there's like a big, powerful God that's given us instructions for how to do this right. And, we're bringing it right back to this is how you solve the population problem. I would propose that post industrial countries have a population like collapse issue because there's just literally not enough people to go around that are prioritizing families that are safe environments for children to be grown in.
and this is true because there's all these other things that in especially with technology, we have so many screens in front of us all the time, and there's a lot more to this, and we're going to cover this some of that in other topics on other episodes here, but there's so much distraction and things like, and we were talking about earlier, pornography. We're also talking about, just life things where you could say, oh, for women, especially a woman wanting to have a career where she doesn't want to have a child that would interrupt the career or whatever the, situation may be there. But, that's the thing. I already know that, and I know this, I always say this, God puts the gifts, the talents, and everything in a person's heart, and that it's there. And whether you use that or not is your choice. It's your choice. We have free will. We're not robots. So you have a choice in how you handle these things. But I can tell you that when you do, like we were saying, following that, like we said, that way, and going with
It
what
all comes
God's
back
will.
to bringing
Um,
God into the plan for your life.
yes,
It's like,
yes,
because your society is telling that society is calling the shots about warning women of the horrible danger of getting into a family situation where they have a husband and a child. And it's like the people who made those narratives popular are people who were not listening to God when they were giving that advice. I would strongly suggest that you backtrace. And I can tell that this is a popular topic right now because it's going across my social media and YouTube feeds right now. You can find this information. Like, hold these people, like, figure out where these opinions came from, learn who said them, and then figure out a little bit about those people's lives and how they went. And like, these people did not live happily ever after. They had like weird, crazy lives where they were like sledding their way around Europe. It's nuts. It's absolutely bananas. Like, do not listen to these folks. But what you should listen to is God. You approach God in prayer. You say, I'm confused about how my life is supposed to go. I need advice about, I need signs, I need communication from the Most High to let me know what way I should go in. And, you can spend 20, 30, 40, 50 years climbing the wrong mountain, but wouldn't it make a lot more sense in terms of who to be with, whether to have children, whether to pursue a career? Because some people are honestly like wired in such a way, and even Paul talks about this. Like, if you can just hang out and live a celibate life, and if you're like, if that hardware is in you to do it, it's like you can hang out and be like Nikola Tesla and like invent crazy energy devices, death rays, and all that good stuff. Like, there are people that are like that, but you don't know if that's you.
yeah. You don't know if that's you, and you don't need to just accept that based upon what some person on the View is telling you, and especially some person that's, like we said, not coming at it from God's point of view. And again, I just want to say the foundation, what you were talking about, is so important. Obviously, that starts with a solid foundation that's built on solid rock, and the rock being that, it's not going to just fall away. And when you think about that, that's why it's so important to, when we're talking about these things, that they, well, again, choosing, making the choice, making those evaluations, having that discernment, it's very important, because again, you can very easily get wrapped up in the girl, and we're speaking obviously to guys right now, but the girl who's like we said earlier, she's the baddie. She's the one that's, she's got the flair of the, whatever you want to say. She's a siren. She's fire. However you want to describe her, she's hot. She's whatever to you. She's just it's a sexual napalm, actually, for you.
Yeah, we can even talk about how in the book of Enoch, they specifically said that technologies around beautification were one of the things that the watchers gave up in order to engage in illicit relations with the women. Of course, what they were getting is they were getting the Adamic birthright from the women and getting that knitted into their bloodline, if you will. It's kind of wild to use a term like that with a supernatural being, but this is what biblical sources say, is that they were actually trying to like sneak their way into humanity in their lineage by grafting their lineage onto the lineage of humans that actually in this realm had authority to do things, or dominion.
And there is the, like what Doc is saying, the spiritual parts of this. And don't be fooled, because the enemy is coming with lies to tell you that you feel better with the person who, like we were saying, it's built on lust. If it's built on lust, you feel great. That person's giving you that drug, whatever however it is, the baddies.
So why buy the cow when you can get the milk for free?
Right, and the whoever, they're giving you those things. But what you're going to come to find is when she burns down your house, you're going to learn. You're going to learn, hey, whoa.
I'm not happy.
I'm not
he just doesn't do it for me anymore.
Yeah, I'm not happy. I deserve to be happy.
I need to find myself. I'm on a growth journey.
Yeah, and then these things happen, and see, I hate to say this, but especially because in now hindsight 2020, right? So and again, me and Doc are speaking from experience, and so we're giving you that perspective.
So part
Um,
of being the Two Sinners on the Two Sinners podcast is like to nail up big signs going, don't go that way. There's a cliff.
right? Don't go that way.
It's
There's a
like we're,
cliff.
we're we're here to help, and you can benefit from our bad example, and that's how we can talk on some of these topics with authority. But go ahead, Jay.
That's true, and so the people though that are going again, and you always want to everything. You consult God first, but when you have that particular person, and we're just saying, you could be pulled in by whatever lie that the enemy is gonna. Oh, it feels good. It's okay. Do it. Oh, you don't want children is gonna mess up your career. Oh, you this or that. There's all kinds of different things here. But when it comes down to it, again, what's going to be the most fulfilling? What's going to be the best? What's going to make you the most and your family prosper and to be like that fruitful and multiply and be prosperous and live abundantly and all of those good things that come from having that solid foundation. Now, making choices and again that's important because you're got to definitely you got to make these evaluations and you got to be scrupulous with your evaluations and be there is judgment that we're going to make that's not the kind of judgment. I mean, obviously the Bible says judge not lest ye be judged, but there are judgments that you're going to make that on a person, on whether that's a potential long-term partner for life and building a family and all of the things that come with that. And you want to make sure that you get that one right. So wait long, don't marry wrong. That's my kind of, my little phrase there I'm throwing out. But because that's what I'm doing. I want to, like I said earlier, was when it does come, if it does happen, if it ever comes to that, and I find that person, I'm willing to put that commitment to.
So even
Um,
we can bring up Pearl Davis. Let's name drop Pearl Davis. She's not like a super duper Christian person. She's in that like anti-feminist space, if you will. Um, I just recently saw something from her where she was like, men. She actually called out Christian men, not just regular men, but Christian men had a big talent for not telling their wives no, for not assuming that authority. And she made the assertion in this video that on that basis, it was a main factor in her not wanting to pursue Christianity because the promises of Christianity seemed to be empty to her because the men would not take their mantle. And that, like, I think she eventually, because she's real big on race right now or whatever, and that part I can take or leave. But she's like, white Christian men, you guys, the fact that you won't tell your wives no makes you guys look silly. Really, really silly. I'm losing respect for you by proxy. She went on probably a good 14-minute tirade about exactly this. It's something to really internalize, like taking that mantle is something that is not always super comfortable. It's like making your wife disappointed and she's yelling at you and crying because you tell her that you can't take the kids to Disneyland. It's just awful. It'd be easier just to go into debt to go to Disneyland so that you can, have this experience or whatever. But you really, and maybe sometimes it's okay to go to Disneyland if you have your ducks in a row. But if you know you don't, the inability to say no causes a role reversal issue. And then when the disaster comes and the debts pile up and all this good business, you're like, oh my gosh, what happened? It's like, well, what happened is that you didn't say no when you meant no. So on that point, I agree with Pearl Davis, but I hope that some of us Christian men can really get in there, and then we can drive more good men toward Christianity and get them to the foot of the cross so that, the kingdom of heaven doesn't become understaffed. Like I say all the time. It's
and
like there's solutions to this, and the solutions are biblical, and it's beautiful and elegant
It
in the
is. It's so
narrative.
beautiful. You hear it a lot from your. Everybody says their grandparents. You know, they're like, my grandparents were together for 68, 70 plus years, or however long that it may have been, and they were the perfect relationship. They loved each other. It was a love story, and all of the fairy tale kind of things that we say, the happily ever after, and all of the things. Well, guess what? Grandma and Grandpa were doing. Grandma and Grandpa were a team. Grandma and Grandpa also knew that they needed each other, and it had to work. They had to come together as a team with God at the center. Um,
What you're saying, Jake, is that the stakes were real
the stakes were
back
real.
then.
The stakes were real. This wasn't the times of I'm not talking recent 40 whatever years. I'm talking like some time in the past where, you know, you depended that family foundation that we talk about. Um, there wasn't all of the distractions. Now the lies, again, these lies that we have, and again, we were talking about some of this stuff obviously with the, okay, women don't have more children because you should be out there working, doing a career that children are going to take away from that and whatnot, and there's all these things. But let's just put it into perspective. Back in those times when we talk about the ideal things that grandma and grandpa had, grandma wasn't concerned about whether or not that she was recognized as a career professional in whatever. That came second to the family and what was happening at home, and the children being raised up right, and also with a dad, and being a dad. And we talk about this a lot, fathers not being in the home, fathers not assuming their role and doing as they should do, or just being prevented, because obviously that's a lot of what's going on as well. Fathers are just being pushed out, all kinds of reasons there. But what we want to say here is, though, is that grandma and grandpa, it was the team, it was God, and it was no kind of like, we're not just going to give up just because of we may face adversity. There might be a war. There might be famine. There might be whatever. But you know who gets through it? The solid nuclear family can take on anything. And this is just so important because we're talking about choices, and you're choosing a partner. And when we're talking about a partner for life, we're not talking about the baddie that you had a good time with last night and it was a one night, and then that's it, and there is nothing to build on. There's nothing to build on there for you guys out
Meanwhile,
there.
meanwhile, your brain chemicals are convincing you. The hormones are coursing through your veins that are telling you that she's the one.
Right,
Because this is a biological process.
right,
Ladies
because
and gentlemen.
there is going to be some of you guys that did do that, and you are the soul ties that are kind of coming out. You're like, oh yeah, she's got me in the feels, and but you also have that rational part that you got to listen to that's telling you, okay, no, this is not, like, you just know what was lust and what's not, and obviously, again, we all fall short of the glory of God. We're all sinners. We all make mistakes, and we all have learning to do on this earth. But what we're talking about right now is family, and if you're gonna build a family, have a solid family, and do it like what I was describing, how grandma and grandpa were doing it. Grandpa knew when he met grandma, the evaluation was very much as significant, just as grandma was going to give for him. But this was going to be based on things that is not what we talk about oftentimes with where we're at now, with the conveniences of the world. Grandma needed to know how to cook. Grandma needed to know some skills like that. It was important. Grandma was going to be at home taking care of kids, and grandpa was going to be out there working, bringing home the bread. And not always that things don't always have to be that way exactly. But what I am going to say is that Grandpa had enough just discernment naturally of the time to be able to be like, you know what? She's for the streets.
Yeah, and
She's for the streets.
It-
Leave her for the streets.
exactly like that, Jake. Just as skills were passed down, how to tan leather, how to grow a garden, how to rotate crops, all this good stuff. The matriarchal side of this society, because there's a matriarchy too
Yes,
that
yes,
runs in there.
yes, yes.
It's like they were guiding young women in the way that they're going, teaching them skills and teaching them the the way to not be a spoiled brat of a wife, to be a teachable, coachable, in submission type role. And then, then she could add to her husband. These women have ideas, and a husband who really cares for his wife, they're gonna take into consideration these ideas. They'll get the final say. But that final say thing causes the women, and because women feel scared, anxious, unsettled, unsafe a lot. And they're just looking for a man that can kind of like wrap a blanket around them so that they can finally go, and
Yeah.
the way that you create this feeling in your wife, girlfriend, this is to be willing to be the one to be the be all end all and not say, whatever you say, baby. And they'll even test you. They'll try to see if you'll go along with something stupid, to see if they can get you to concede to it. There are all these relationship tests on the internet with oranges and ketchup and all this nonsense. And so the relationship test is the real true test is, can I just throw a ring in this guy's nose and lead him around the barnyard and get him to lay down and roll over? That's the real test. It's like the tippy top of that test as a man is when you reach over, turn the phone off, and say, let's not have an argument in front of the neighbors. Let's bring this inside, and I'm going to let you know unequivocally that I'm not going to be treated this way. And if you do, I'm not going to offer support and companionship and all that. And you cannot do that if you're already married because you've already made a promise, or if you're already fornicating because your biology won't let you go free.
And this is all important. It's important, and as a man, and stepping up to that plate, because you do have to step up to that plate. Be that man if you're going to be that leader in in the family, and you're going to do that. And there is no other way. You've got to take that role seriously and step up to the plate. And you can't. Again, I bring this also back to the times that we live in now, because we were just kind of talking about grandma and grandpa, and yeah, they lived in different times. Certainly, they lived in different times, and for whatever reasons you might argue that were problems then, they're maybe not the same things we're dealing with now. But in the scheme of things, the same rules apply. The same. It's all still there. It's in your hands, men. It's in your hands to either choose to do it the right way, or don't do it the right way. And it starts and it ends with you, and you are the man. The man creates. The man, it's you and again, you come together as one flesh in a marriage, and that's important. You do come together as one, and you become that partnership. And it's very much not to just be like just condescending of women or anything, but when you are in that role and you are doing the things that you should be doing. Women, I believe, that's like he just said it. It's like that blanket, and you're comfortable. The blanket is on. You're like, oh yeah, that feels great. I'm warm. I'm snug. I'm comforted. I feel safe. I feel protected. That is true. Now, again, choices. The baddie, she doesn't give a damn about that blanket. She's got a blanket out in her car and she's ready to go on to the next, and it's on to the next because it's not about you. It's not serious to her. She's for the streets. It's leave her for the streets. That's all I can say. I mean, you do have to have that discernment there. But if you're looking for a partner, and we are talking that you're making a serious choice for marriage and for building a family. Now, when we started off earlier, we were talking about the view conversation, and that was about having children and the fact that they don't think, obviously. We have plenty of people, and that having kids is not good, and that whatever reasons, poverty. Well, I'm here to tell you that when you have a solid marriage, and you are having children, not out of wedlock, but in marriage, wealth is going to come to you like you won't believe.
There's a word for it, Jake. It's called the success sequence.
This is true.
So, this is kind of a proven by multi-study deal. This came out of academia. The success sequence. They found that for people who graduate high school, they get their basic education, they get married, and then they have children after marriage. Only those three things. They're like table stakes. The rate of poverty among those people is, I think, 2-3%, something like that. It's disastrously small. So it's like, and this is great advice to like our younger men and women there, because the world is giving you this big message right now that says, no matter what I do, no matter if I follow God's will or not, no matter if I graduate high school or not, no matter if I get a college education even or not or whatever, I'll never have a house, I'll never have a family, I'll never meet somebody, I'll never be happy. The society is just selling a death style right now. But it turns out that, just like Jake said, abundance and prosperity and this kind of stuff, just by the stats, follows this success sequence. It's a thing that you can do. And even if you've missed out on some of these guardrails along the way, it lets you know how to get your vehicle back on track.
And sometimes you need to get right. Like sometimes you need to have experiences that God is going to allow you to fall in, and we all make mistakes, but sometimes you're going to need that you're going to need to get that get right moment, the come to Jesus moment, the whatever it may be. But definitely, again, don't believe the lies. Don't take up the lies that the enemy it throws out there every day at you about, and right now we're talking about children, and children are they are a gift from God, and it's an amazing thing. Like I gotta say, I look at Doc here. I'm so proud of him as a father, as a man. This guy is literally a walking example of, that's how you do it. Like there's just the ways, the every part of that integrity of as a father. This man right next to me, he's got it. And I know that out there, we talk about this because it's so important having a father in the home, the father in the home. And
we don't maybe want to talk about the statistics around single parent families and the difference between single parent families with mothers only and fathers only. That's the thing.
I was just about to actually bring it up.
I don't want to discourage people, But so single fatherhood is kind of on the rise because there are more and more fathers that are just circumstantially stepping up. It all starts from back when they decide to engage in fornication and have children with people who are wrong, and marry, maybe if you get that far, people who are wrong for them. But one of the consequences of this is single fatherhood, and so the statistics about single motherhood just don't bear out well. Um, I don't want to discourage any of the single moms because, by golly, I'm for you guys, and I think that it should be like a primary MO of the church to come around single mothers and make sure that they're taken care of. Like,
Definitely,
I think that
most definitely.
we've already talked on other episodes about how I think that that's directionally a biblical mandate.
It is. It is very
But
important.
but yeah, so when children have single fathers, the stats are pretty much unrecognizable from nuclear families, and that'll just let you know that if anybody says that the father is not important, it's a lie. Like, it's a thing. But again, this all starts back when the relationships start. It doesn't.
Exactly.
The problems don't
Exactly.
start when the relationships end. The divorce, the the dysfunction with kids. It's a symptom of a disease that started at the beginning of relationships. That's why this this whole episode basically became about starting well.
It's true, and that's definitely, and because we could sit here and we could talk about the stats of all, population decline and those things. Obviously, it's important. We want a strong nation. We want strong America. We got to have children. We can't, any nation that it's just, that's important.
We want a strong America because competing nations have our number and they mean for our destruction.
This is absolutely right.
It's a thing that people forget when they're trying to be in like a cute little togetherness circle. And I love people. I don't want people of other nations to suffer. But it's just a fact that there is a competition afoot, and we need to be
Yes.
cognizant of that. And we need to make sure that our empathy doesn't become suicidal.
Exactly. And that is very true what Doc just said. That's exactly right. We've got to do that. We can't have suicidal empathy. We have to be able to be strong. And again, we are well, we're running out of time for today, but we're going to pick.
I think we jammed the nail in pretty good.
I think we did. I think we will definitely. We're going to have more conversations here where we can piggyback off of this and get into some further things there. But for everybody out there, just remember, obviously, just discernment. Don't believe the lies. There's a lot of lies out there that's trying to manipulate you. The enemy is just roaming around, just waiting to strike you, to bring you down, to wait for your weakest moment. And I'm just saying, yes, be strong out there, men. We've definitely got to, men, it's so important. And we were just talking about, again, the father, the I can just say right now, I would not be the man that I am. Now, I came from single dad, but I can tell you this. Without my dad, I'm not the man that I am. My dad is definitely responsible for imparting so much on me. Now, I've been through life. I've learned some lessons because we're kids. At one point, we don't always listen. We put our hand on the stove and we get burned. And your heavenly Father is going to let you do the same thing. Put that hand on the stove, and the proverbial don't. You get your hand burned, so you learn. You don't put your hand on the stove. It's just one of those things, and so you gotta have discernment. You gotta have good choices, proper choices, the right.
This is, I think, the premier closing thought, Jake, is that we've talked about like some groups of people in a broad brush here.
Yeah.
And what I want to make sure to emphasize is people get themselves into fixes all the time. And they get themselves into fixes by not acting in accordance to God's will. And what I'm saying is that repentance and redemption and getting back on track is always possible. God is powerful enough to redeem your life situation from your screw ups.
This is true.
And that's the number one thing that I wanted to make sure after we talked about.
Yeah, most definitely.
Different, because there are people who are, we're kind of phrasing this as advice, but there are people who've already stepped over that cliff, and I just want to make sure to let them know that God can be their parachute.
That's right. God can be your parachute, and you can come back. You can make that comeback, and you can still do all things through Christ who strengthens us. And it is possible. There is that redemption, and your book isn't finished, and you can still continue writing the rest of the book and the rest of the chapters, and that is there for you. And that's what we definitely want to make sure that we emphasize, that that you do have those options. And no, none of us are perfect. We all fall short of the glory of God, and so we're all sinners, and it's just that's the way it is. But that's what we're here to talk to you guys about. We're here, and we want to give you guys the best advice. We want to give you guys, especially something to take away from our conversations, and I think that we're doing that. It's really cool, and especially just today's world, what we were talking about. There's a lot going on, and so we just want to be a light out there for you in the darkness, and that light out it's that shining light on the hill, or however you want to look at it.
Hope is the message.
Hope.
You can be a couple of filthy sinners, like me and Jake, and with God's will, things can get better.
This is true. Well, it's been awesome, guys. We will let you go for now, and we will see you next time. Have a great weekend.
Stay awesome.